They'll cure every ill, make the blind to see. Uncle Sam don't see a thing, 'cause charlatans never change. Soothsaying in that holy name, fools burnt in holy flame. Oh, charlatans never change. They'll cure your gout. Pass the plate, take a pass on down, 'cause charlatans never change. Soothsaying in that holy name, fools burnt in holy flame. Oh, charlatans never change. A golden throne, sow your seed, reap what you've sown. Hung over in Jesus' tent, refill your wallet, Sunday comes again. 'Cause charlatans never change. Soothsaying in that holy name, fools burnt in holy flame. Oh, charlatans never change.
But you hear me all right? It's weird. I'm just going to come out and say it's weird. Welcome to Charlotte, North Carolina. Everything is well with the family. We are back on the investigation. So, yesterday, I haven't had a chance to upload it yet, but I went and shot one shot in front of the home of one Tyler Robinson. Didn't learn anything really interesting. It was just interesting that I happened to be in Washington City, Utah. And then while I was there, did a little snooping around. About a man named Mike Mitchell, who people really want you to stop asking questions about and talking about. Observe. Hi, everybody. I'm going to share with you this news report. Fox 17 Nashville, closer to where I am now. But you see here, this right here is Sheriff Nate Brooksby, now disgraced. You heard me, Brooksby. You heard me. Allegedly disgraced Washington County Sheriff Nate Brooksby, talking about about Tyler Robinson turning himself in. Now, this is being hashed up again and again in the news, not because Nate Brooksby recently took a massive payout to just go away, related somehow to allegedly the sexual harassment of one of his unnamed deputies, as far as I know, a wife of one of his deputies, and or screwing up a major case, unnamed. In any event, Nate Brooksby had to go away. And meanwhile, there's this little blast from the past, going back to when Tyler Robinson turned himself in, as they like to say. And the reason why it's getting brought up now, again and again, let me make sure that everybody can see me. Everybody see me? Everybody hear me? Hey, Jesse, how are you? The reason why they are talking about it more and more right now it appears to me, is that this oh, that's distracting, isn't it? Um, is that the footage of Tyler Robinson being brought into the Washington County Sheriff's Office in Hurricane, Utah, is gone. It's just gone. In fact, everything everything connected to the guy who the youth pastor, the scoutmaster, the church friend of the Robinson family, anytime his face shows up in the Tyler Robinson case, it goes away. And it's not just in the Tyler Robinson case. Everything related to this guy goes away, with the exception of a small handful of things that you kind of have to dig for. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention here is going all the way back to last year. This is September 17th, 2025. This is just after the apprehension of Tyler Robinson, when a family friend, a youth pastor, a friend from the church, a man trusted and known to the family, allegedly convinced Tyler Robinson to turn himself in and to confess to killing Charlie Kirk. Only he says and maintains he never admitted to that he doesn't admit to that. And that's a weird turnaround. Just go back to the footage of him willingly being brought into the Washington County Sheriff's Office with this family friend. Oh, it's missing? It went away. Not so weird, it turns out, because anything with Mike Mitchell in it has a weird way of going away. In any event, so this coverage from September 17th, look here. According to Brooksby, again, that's the now disgraced Sheriff Brooksby, his friend, well, let's go back. Let's read it back a little bit further here. Robinson, age 22, was charged on Tuesday with aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm, 2 counts of capital obstruction of justice, 2 counts of tampering with a witness, and a violent offense committed in the presence of a child in the killing of political activist Charlie Kirk. Robinson was taken into custody on September 11th, 33 hours after the deadly shooting. Brooksby said he was winding down for the evening, as you do, when at approximately 8:02 p.m., he received a call from his friend, a retired detective. According to Brooksby, his friend shakily said something along the lines of, "Hey, I know who Charlie Kirk's shooter is. I know the family through religious association." First of all, no Mormon ever describes it that way. We're getting a peek into the way that boomers and older Gen X people start to rewrite the way they think other people think that they talk. Hey, I know who Charlie Kirk's shooter is. I know the family through religious association. You would say from church. You would say from the church, from the ward. And he's in Washington County now. The retired detective said they were working to get Robinson to turn himself in voluntarily. Robinson's family knew that he was involved with law enforcement and trusted that they could go with him. He is outstanding and deserves full credit, Brooksby said of his friend. The call lasted less than 2 minutes, and Robinson was brought into the sheriff's office and greeted by plainclothes detectives within the hour. Then you have this business here. The retired Olivia Kelleher from Olivia Kelleher News, or Kelleher. But yeah, I'm sorry, Olivia, I'm mispronouncing your name, I'm sure. The retired detective said the retired detective told the sheriff that Tyler considered suicide rather than surrendering, but his parents talked him down. The retired detective drove Tyler and his parents to the sheriff's office. He was at the office for about 2.5 hours before he was transported to Utah. Yeah, that's really all there was to that. So just take my word for it. So there we are. Oh, we probably can't see that very well. Sorry, friends. Is that better? Um, because the Washington County Sheriff's Office was not the lead investigative team, they simply worked to keep Robinson comfortable in the holding room. He sat on a couch with his parents and a water bottle. Brooksby said Robinson knew it was inevitable that he would be caught. He was afraid that SWAT would target his or his parents' house or that he would get shot, so the sheriff's office agreed to treat it as delicately and softly as possible. There was negotiation, there was criteria, Brooksby said. I'm going to make concessions to make that happen. And then that's it. And there's no mention of a Mike Mitchell anywhere in here. Why not? I mean, he did say that the friend deserves full credit in the actual announcement. Should I show it to you? It's not uncomfortable. This is that weird uncomfortable announcement. Let's see if it'll play or if it will advertise to us first. Probably.
Without a central location to enter and store
Blah,
data,
blah,
it's
blah,
almost
blah, shit.
impossible to take control of your payroll.
We're learning new details tonight about the events leading up to Charlie Kirk's
Everybody hear
accused
that?
assassin's surrender.
Liv Keller-Harris joining us from the Washington County Sheriff's Office, where Tyler Robinson voluntarily surrendered. And Liv, walk us through that evening. What has the sheriff said about the sequence of events leading up to this?
On Thursday evening from a friend who's also a retired detective from the Washington County Sheriff's Office. That retired detective said he knew who the suspect was in the shooting.
Again, no names. Weird. No names. His name is Michael Mitchell.
Charlie Kirk. He said that negotiations began after they decided on some terms for that surrender.
Robinson and his parents were together.
Oh, I thought this was
sheriff
the
said
actual
and
announcement from.
agency-
Anyways, I digress. If you watch the actual announcement from Sheriff Brooksby, now disgraced, allegedly. Go ahead and get rid of this. You will see that it's stupid uncomfortable. The guy is pouring down sweat much more than I am, and it's like 84 degrees inside this hotel room in Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte, North Carolina. Why so hot? Why? All right. Now, here's why this gets heated up, gets a little bit interesting. I'm going to try and do this. I've been literally putting together so many weird details about this guy, Mike Mitchell. It's going to be a little bit sloppy. I apologize. You know how it is. These live shows. Lately, I've been thinking we're going to do live shows, and then I'm going to do recuts of the live shows, and then do shorts out of those probably, or probably just do shorts completely separately. But anyways, the thing that gets weird about it is that it makes me have to prove Candace Owens right about things. And that's really unfortunate because Candace Owens is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I mean, Candace Owens is not a conspiracy theorist. Candace Owens is unwell. That doesn't mean she's always wrong. And even a broken watch is right twice a day. And that's where this Mike Mitchell thing gets mentioned by Candace Owens. I'm going to see if I can find it here in some of these clips in a way that brought back to me something very interesting that I had said, okay, Candace, even I would be tempted to believe that one, but it doesn't necessarily have to mean that there's any there. And I may have been wrong. So we listen.
Why he needed to stop at Nick's house to speak to him and why that would be on his list of things to do. Now, I am told, according to a very strong source, that what Phil Lyman was doing in town on Saturday was he was meeting with Tim Ballard.
Okay. We're not doing this, Candace. We're not doing this. If anyone's going to do this, it would be me saying, allegedly, that Tim Ballard shot Charlie Kirk. I'm not saying that. I'm directly saying that I'm not saying that. So when that gets thrown back at me, maybe Candace Owens can be led to believe that. She doesn't appear to be convinced of that. But if anybody's going to lob that accusation at Tim Ballard, it's going to be me. Because it's not so much that I want it to be true. It's that I've suspected Tim Ballard was involved somewhere circumstantially with this, because hardly any of this stuff happens without somebody in Tim Ballard's orbit, because Tim Ballard was so well connected in Utah. I mean, hell, he had maybe two, at least two apostles from the Quorum of the 12 in his pocket, maybe a third one at this point where it's possible. So I have no idea what Kara knows or does not know, Lisa. Kara, I hope, is doing well. Kara doesn't answer my texts anymore. I don't know, and I am concerned. I hope she's well. Last time she didn't answer my text, turns out she was doing fine. It's just busy. So I haven't talked to Kara in a long time. In any event, no, I'm getting into it. I'm getting into it a little bit here. Now, in any event, so let's bring Candace. Okay, so she's talking about Phil Lyman, a trusted source to me, who has not authorized me to mention who they are, but who I trust and is very knowledgeable about Tim Ballard, has said to me when I asked, what do you know about Tim Ballard and former Utah gubernatorial candidate / Utah representative, Mormon, conservative, ultra MAGA firebrand dude, Phil Lyman. I said, what do you know about Phil Lyman's closeness to Tim Ballard? And said, trusted source said, Tim Ballard and Phil Lyman are close. Thank you, trusted informant. I knew that much. If you don't know, basically at one point when MAGA were trying to make a concerted effort to ouster all the centrist Republicans in Utah, starting with centrist Republican numero uno of all time, Mitt Romney, and get rid of the non-Trump loyalists from Utah's delegation. Their new poster boy to replace Mitt Romney was one Timothy Brutus Bastardus Ballard, and not his real name. Who knows what his real name is? And the problem here with Tim Ballard being at the center of the case was he's supposed to be in Israel. He's supposed to be out there helping the Druze to maintain their independence from Syria during their political chaos and civil war. How is it that he was in Utah County that day meeting with Phil Lyman, especially when Phil Lyman that day, September 10th, 2025, was at the Charlie Kirk event at UVU? I don't want to be the old crazy conspiracy theorist, but it is plausible that Tim Ballard was in Utah County at the time. I just want to clarify it. Is my understanding at the time, Tim Ballard's family lived in Eagle Mountain, which is technically Utah County, but it's like out there. But Tim Ballard used to hold meetings at Thanksgiving Point, where a plane is registered. Well, let's not get into that. Let's not get into the plane right now. Maybe we won't even have time to get into it today.
That's totally random. Did not expect to hear that. Tim Ballard, if you are not familiar with him, is formerly of Operation Underground Railroad, which is a charity that is dedicated to helping to stop human sex trafficking. I even remember, by the way, when we were all speaking about that plane transponder that turned off, that the individuals that owned that plane were wearing an Operation Underground Railroad t-shirt. And so I wasn't expecting that. I am going to reach out to Tim Ballard. I know him. I've actually interviewed him, and I used to donate to that charity because
Candace, I don't know if you have reached out to Tim Ballard. Don't trust the things Tim Ballard tells you. Trust your guts on this. This is not normal. There is something weird going on there. I can't say what it is. And I was the first to say, okay, this airplane thing has gone a little too wild. I still don't have anything good to anything good to confirm or connect Tim Ballard to this airplane or this airplane to anything happening, especially when the only reason it appears to me that Candace Owens is interested in this airplane that left just a few minutes after Charlie Kirk was killed, left just a few minutes afterwards from Provo Airport, which is about 10 minutes away from the UVU campus. It's like over the 15s right there. And so it's very plausible that this private airplane could have taken somebody who just made a mad dash, who was obviously not Tyler Robinson, to this airport and taken them over. Apparently, according to a post which I can't independently verify, but I have seen pictures of in this coverage, a post that apparently was taken down from social media. Hey, Tim, is that there is this plane took off from Provo down to Page, Arizona, and then with 2 passengers, pilot and 2 passengers, and then returned later at some other later point with 7 passengers. And the pilot of said plane is Derek Maxfield, as I understand it, the owner of Unique, which was a pretty big MLM at that time. Also, the founder of a foundation, an anti-trafficking foundation called Unique Foundation, which is now changed its name, but basically he's involved in arranging aftercare for women, particularly who are victims of trafficking. Now, I have nothing against supporting aftercare for women who are victims of trafficking. Anytime that happens in Utah, I immediately say, and where's the Operation Underground Railroad connection? To this day, I cannot find any Operation Underground Railroad connection straight away between Derek Maxfield or his wife, Shalane Maxfield. All that I know about them that supposedly is supposed to connect them to the story is that they have their plane, which we have the tail number for, took off from Provo to Page, Arizona, just a few minutes after Charlie Kirk was killed and returned later. And apparently the transponders on the aircraft stopped transmitting along the way. Now, I've looked at all kinds of different coverage about this with people ranging from, nope, you can see the entire flight path at all. You can see the movement of the plane. There is no interruption, all the way up to the FBI and Kash Patel saying that they were going to look into this airplane, that apparently it stopped sending its transponder messaging, transponder signal, and then saying, oh, it did stop collecting this transponder signal, but that wasn't because the plane malfunctioned or the equipment malfunctioned, but because there isn't coverage the entirety of southern Utah, and so in rural areas the signal's going to drop out. I haven't been able to independently verify any of that. Most of that information goes away at some point or another, and frankly, I just don't know that I'm that interested. Until somebody can come up with something more interesting. The interest that Candace Owens has in it is apparently that Maxfield and his wife donate and or support Israel. And I don't particularly find that interesting. I think we all know why Candace Owens finds it interesting. I do, however, find it interesting that while they are doing all of that, Tim Ballard is in Utah County meeting with Phil Lyman, who stopped talking to Candace Owens after she asked him, "What do you mean you were meeting with Tim Ballard? I know Tim Ballard. I can verify this with him." And then apparently he started getting squirrely with her, like, well, I mean, whatever. Tim Ballard and I are friends. Tim Ballard and Phil Lyman are very close, I'm told. They are very close. And Phil Lyman was at the event where Charlie Kirk was shot. In fact, he took photos with Charlie Kirk. In fact, he had people hold up signs saying, "Write in for Governor Phil Lyman." It feels, I'm not saying it is, it feels almost as if one might be creating an alibi for oneself. I'm not saying that's what happens. I'm just saying, as I look at it, this is what appears to me immediately. So I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. It likely has nothing to do with anything. But there was an airplane that belonged to a guy who works in anti-trafficking, apparently, is a millionaire several times over. He is, strangely enough, one of the few MLM people I know nothing. I have no personal connections to that I know of. And apparently this plane did leave just a few minutes after Charlie Kirk was killed and then return later at some point. And apparently they Maxfield and his wife do support the Israeli government. Perhaps means nothing, and perhaps means nothing that Tim Ballard happened to be in Utah County at the same time, taking a break apparently from saving the Druze from in Syria. In any event, what does any of this have to do with Mike Mitchell? Well, I'm so glad that you asked. Anything else interesting in here? So she says that she's going to go and talk to Tim Ballard.
Phil Lyman was his uncle. It's probably for
Okay.
some reason from
Then she talks about this uncle about this nephew / cousin who, I will say, the photos that she found of this young person who is allegedly the cousin or relative of Phil Lyman's do look suspiciously like a young man. You see this nephew is the boy here. You'll see in the bottom left-hand corner, young person, I should say, in the corner. And then the guy right behind him does look suspiciously like the surveillance camera photos of Tyler Robinson, allegedly wearing a hat very much like Tyler Robinson's, although very clearly not the same hat. In fact, I think it's a BYU hat, if I'm not mistaken. But in a part of campus that looks like UVU's campus. In fact, it does look very much like the exact place where the surveillance footage was shot. Who knows, right? I mean, it's not okay. It's not evidence per se, but it's not interesting. And she goes as far as to take some of these pictures that they weirdly went and took in places that all look like the surveillance footage. And apparently she brought in some kind of tip that she received in which apparently this young person who looks an awful lot like Tyler Robinson was involved in some kind of goth prom in Provo at some point, and that's apparently got a lot. That's apparently important for some reason. I didn't find it that important. It is interesting though that these images are BYU. Why are you wearing a BYU hat at UVU campus? Don't you know they'll jump you? They will not. UVU kids are like the most docile kids. you're more likely to get roughed up at BYU campus, frankly. But in any way, so he does look like you could put dark glasses on him, canvas, or what do you call them? Not canvas, but well, they are canvas, I guess. Converse sneakers on him, and he could be a dead ringer, forgive the phrase, for Tyler Robinson, and taking them all in places that very much appear to be the same places where the surveillance photos emerged. I'm just saying, this isn't proof, but if you were going to commit a crime and blame somebody else for it, this is exactly the accomplice that you would want. You would want somebody that you can go, look, we can dress this guy up to look like Tyler Robinson, get him to show up on campus, walk around a little bit, where he knows where the surveillance cameras are because he's been there, he's scoped the place out, and we'll set it up to look like that's Tyler Robinson up there. And then when the crime happens, have that guy run, jump down where the camera can see him, and then run off of campus in the direction of where we happen to have Tyler Robinson's rifle already stashed somewhere else. Why do I say that? Why not give him the rifle? Why not have this boy here take Tyler Robinson's K98 Mauser with scope, or one like it, with Tyler Robinson's DNA on it, allegedly, and use it? One, just because the guy looks like Tyler Robinson does not mean that this guy is some kind of military hardware genius who can hit a target with a 30-06 chambered, 98 Mauser from nearly 200 yards. I don't know if he does. If he is, that would be a specific set of skills for somebody who otherwise is really only under suspicion because he looks like Tyler Robinson and is connected to Phil Lyman, apparently, but who was there when it happened. And as I have been told by a person of confidence, that's not the way to say that. A person who has great in whom I have great confidence. It still sounds wrong. That sounds like con man. Anyway, Tim Ballard and Phil Lyman are very close. Doesn't mean Tim Ballard had anything to do with this. Again, I'm not saying they did, but it is interesting. But I think I will be able to demonstrate for you here. I hope I can do this without doing anything too graphic, but we're going to have to it's going to perhaps get a little bit graphic, and I apologize for that. It'll become clear why it's important to me to connect at least the possibility that you don't need this guy to have the actual weapon and on that rooftop at the Lossy Center on UVU campus that day. In fact, it's preferable if he doesn't, and I would say it's preferable if said Mauser, which we have already established, plausibly could not have been fired with the scope that was mounted onto it, the way that was mounted onto it, with the safety that appears to be on the back of that Mauser, because it's one of these flag safeties that has to rotate basically through that space where the scope is. So you would have to assemble it with the safety open in the firing position, which is okay. That's one thing, stupid dangerous. But the problem with that being, when the photograph from the police seems to indicate that the safety is in the locked position, meaning not only can you not pull the trigger and fire it, but you can't even you can't even open up the bolts, open up the chamber and load around into it. So again, it all adds up fishy at this point. Doesn't prove anything.
That I think have helped to clarify exactly what sort of a detective he was and maybe why he was not featured in.
So I will say this. It is 1:08 a.m. in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Candace Owens is right. Even a stopwatch is right twice a day. So look for Candace Owens to give you an opinion at 1:08 in the afternoon. Let me go back a little bit here because I'll say this, Candace Owens. I'm surprised that your answer on the Tim Ballard was there when Charlie Kirk was killed. Tim Ballard was somewhere in the vicinity. Your conclusion was, I'll call him. I used to give money to Operation Underground Railroad. Wait, what? Dude, that is not the way, Candace. That is not the way. Your friend Tim Ballard is dangerous in any event. But that doesn't mean you're wrong about this, Candace. Watch what Candace has to say on this.
Tenure as a police officer, you're just featured in a lot of articles. And now quickly regarding our question pertaining to Mike Mitchell, right?
Mike Mitchell is the man's name. Michael is a long form name of a shortened name, which is Mike. Mike Mitchell is the guy's name. If you're going to call Mike Mitchell by his name, and because you're not Sheriff Brooksby, ex-Sheriff Brooksby, you might call him by Mike Mitchell because Mike Mitchell is the motherfucker's name.
Was saying that it was pretty odd and obvious that they were trying to protect this detective, Mike Mitchell.
That's his name. Sheriff. That's the man's name. Use his name.
Also learned that he's a Boy Scout leader in the LDS church, but usually if you have a long tenure as a police officer, you're just featured in a lot of articles. And then we received some leads that I think have helped to clarify exactly what sort of a detective he was, and maybe
you could say Google. He Googled. I Googled. It's all right to Google. You conservatives, there's no shame in saying that you Googled. Don't trust everything that Google tells you, especially now that AI runs Google. No. Do not trust everything that Google tells you. But it's all right to first just Google. It's like reading Wikipedia. You won't go to hell for it. You will probably get some wrong information, but you won't go to hell.
Why he was not featured in a lot of articles, because he was, as it appears to be, a undercover detective.
Yes. It is 1:12 a.m. in Charlotte, North Carolina. Look at 1:12 p.m. in Charlotte, North Carolina. Tomorrow to see if Candace Owens says something true, because even a stopwatch is right twice a day. Yes, correct. Yes. Thank you, Candace.
By all accounts, he was an online detective. Apparently, if this is the correct Mike Mitchell, and given the timeline of when he becomes an undercover detective, I have a strong hunch that it is the right individual.
Okay. It's a stab in the dark. It's wild. It's a wild stab in the dark. Did you, Tim? Did it have an aftermarket safety, or did it have the flag safety? That's interesting. Do you still have it? I don't think. I still say. I think we have put to bed that I don't think whatever killed Charlie Kirk that day, September 10th, 2025, it was not a 98 Mauser chambered 30-06. Yeah. So there you go. And it flags, rotates, and you have the factory one that rotates. So it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim. So if it's rotated to the right, can't open the bolt, can't load around, cannot pull the trigger and fire. If it is loaded in the up position, oh, that's too bad. If it's in the rotated directly up position, you can open the bolt, load around, close the bolt, but pull the trigger and it does not fire. And then if you move the flag safety all the way to the left, then you can open the bolt, close the bolt, pull the trigger, and it fires. So, and in the photograph that we went over, it appears to be with that low mounted scope on there, safe, placed safe in the closed position. If I were Tyler Robinson and wanted to make it look, and wanted to raise attention to myself and say it looks like I did it, but then prove that I did not do it, that's exactly how I would mount that scope in there and say that safety is on. How did I fire that? Remove the scope, close the safety, put the scope back on, run across that roof and over and stash it over into the trees. If I were Tyler Robinson and wanted to prove myself innocent, that's exactly how I'd do it. So I'm just saying, it feels like this is not the weapon, but people heard a weapon. In fact, people who were on the ground at the event said they heard multiple shots. Now, people, when they are under stress and panicking, people hear things. So it sounded like, okay, well, we can hear on the recording that there is only one shot. You can hear that shot. If somebody had taken multiple shots, then there would be proof of the multiple shots. Namely, you would hear multiple shots. Why is it that people who were there could hear multiple shots, some of them? Maybe they just remembered it wrong. Maybe, probably, but maybe not. In any event, here's how. Let's listen a little bit more on what Candace has to say here.
Because he says, he was on the force for 25 years. This individual began his career in 1999.
Okay, so here's what she is referring to. This information, this key information that she has. It's a report from. Why isn't it showing up here? The Deseret News. She got it from the Mormon Church. Okay, so this is an article published November 16th, 1999. Quote, by Amy Joy Bryson, staff writer at Deseret News. Quote, he sits at a desk, tapping on a computer keyboard, and becomes a boy. He's chatting with someone now. His words are full of typos, misspellings, and childlike phrases. Mike Mitchell is not a boy. Everybody see this article? Okay. He is a police detective hunting for a pedophile, but the hunted doesn't know that. The detective and the pedophile agree to a meeting place for a sexual encounter. The pedophile, by the way, spicy reporting for the Deseret News. The pedophile believes he is meeting with a young boy. The detective knows he is meeting with a monster. Quote, back in the 1950s, people's concept of a child was someone in a raincoat who hid in the bushes in a park, jumped out, and kids, Mitchell said. We all know today that's not the way it is. Today, the pedophile out there can be someone lurking on the internet. This is 1999. You'll hear very 1999-y things in this newspaper article. By the way, even in 1999, this is a little late for this language. Today, the pedophile be out there, someone lurking on the internet, plying old tricks of the trade to lure young victims into sexual exchanges. Mitchell, a detective with the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office, has been investigating child sex crimes on the internet for about a year. I don't think people realize how big it is, he said. Mitchell is a proponent of legislation being pushed by Representative Perry Buckner, who is a Salt Lake County Sheriff's deputy. Buckner, a Democrat from Kearns, wants the state to have the ability to seize and keep a person's computer after that person has been convicted of a computer-assisted sex crime against a minor. Quote, it makes sense to take away the tool of the crime away from the criminal, Mitchell said. So, Mitchell, as we are told oftentimes, if you go and look at Mike Mitchell, this is the guy who turned in Tyler Robinson. If you go and look at his LinkedIn page, it says detective, Washington County Sheriff's Office for 25 years. That's it. You go and look at the here, let me see if I can pull up the image. Well, maybe I just pull up. You can look, you can Google this. Mike Mitchell retirement. You'll do an image search and it'll pull up the Facebook post here. I'll just pull that up here. Remove that. Remove it. Stop screen. Share screen. This is from the Facebook page. Well, actually, this is from the Facebook via Google. Yeah, let me click on it here, okay? Washington County Sheriff's Office. There's your Nate Brooksby, who doesn't want to say the name Mike Mitchell. And that's the dude right there. His friend who deserved all the credit, but can't say his name. This is January 11th, 2024. Dude's name is Mike Mitchell. He's got a face. Mike Mitchell is a person. His name was Robert. What is it in Fight Club? His name was Robert something. How did it go? Anyway, so that's it. The guy is the guy. Oh, it's still stuck on the other page. Sorry. Let me get rid of this. Stop screen. Start screen. Facebook. This is the Facebook post. Today we celebrate the career of Detective Mike Mitchell after over 24 years of serving Washington County. He is retiring. Okay. But this guy, this Mike Mitchell that she's referring to, was a detective for about a year in 1999 in Salt Lake County. Did he start in Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office, move down to Southern Utah at some point, become a detective down there, and then mount it all together? Who knows? I don't know. I haven't been able to find much about this guy. This is mostly it. Starting in the jail back in 1999, Detective Mitchell, Sheriff Brooksby, and Detective Mitchell both had some wonderful stories to share. We would like to give our heartfelt thanks to Detective Mitchell and all who came out to give him a warm send-off. Congratulations, Detective Mitchell. This is when this guy, Mike Mitchell, retired after more than 24 years on the force. Does that include 1999 when this Deseret News article came out? It could. I mean, it would have meant that he was brand new on the force if he's only been on the force as long as he's been a detective. Whether or not that was a detective at the jail, I don't know. Do they have many detectives in jail in Salt Lake County? I don't know. But apparently, if this Mike Mitchell, then it does make sense that they started to scrub him from the internet as much as possible because he's an undercover agent. And maybe there are people who have an agenda against him. Maybe worked undercover working on these net nanny type jobs like the ones that Tim Ballard's people at OUR were coordinating with law enforcement agencies in Washington and in Utah when OUR was brand new. Wait a minute. Ding. Tim Ballard was near UVU, was in Utah County when Charlie Kirk was killed. Is this a chess live? Yes. Yes, it is. It's a little bit backgammon-ish at the moment, but yes, it is. And is allegedly on a hiatus from his work in Syria and Israel, where there is a plane on the ground owned by a couple, an MLM owner couple, powerful, influential couple, whose plane and company are registered at Thanksgiving Point in Lehi, Utah, which is right there near UVU's campus, about 10 minutes north on the I-15 and a place where Tim Ballard is known to go and take meetings with people. I've met 2 people so far. I've heard of at least 4 people who have met with Tim Ballard at restaurants or businesses and offices in the Thanksgiving Point area. Everybody from this area knows Thanksgiving Point. And so, including me, I used to go there all the time. Took my kids to go see Supergirl there last week. So, I mean, it's, so maybe coincidence. They have a plane, this company, Unique, which has offices right there and owns a company named after, in an LLC, after the name of the tail number of said airplane that did, just a few minutes after Charlie Kirk's assassination, fly down to Page, Arizona, and then eventually come back, and did apparently plausibly drop its transponder signal along the way. It all might be nothing. That if they went to Page, Arizona, this is about 2.5 hours away from Washington, Utah, where allegedly Mike Mitchell, who has a name, lived. Did you like it? I thought it was. I didn't think it was as good as Superman. I'll say that much. But yeah, I mean, go see it though. Yeah, so advertise drugs. Okay. Anyways, so I don't know. I mean, it is weird. But at the same time, it's like Page is 2.5 hours away from Washington County, from Washington City, which is in Washington County. UVU is about 4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours away. I know because my parents live there, and I used to go back and forth, seeing my kids in Utah County, and then down to Washington County all the time. In fact, I did it just this last weekend. And so it's like, it's weird if you just otherwise would just have gotten on the road and gone down, if Mike Mitchell were there when Phil Lyman was there and allegedly Tim Ballard was there and allegedly Tyler Robinson was there, which nobody's saying that he was. I'm just saying, if he were, the only reason to get on an airplane and drive back to Washington instead of getting on an airplane is that the whole way down out of town, your license plate would be getting snagged and photographed all the way down as you were fleeing away from the Charlie Kirk scene, driving south to Washington County. Okay. I hate to say this, but that's a compelling reason to say, hey, do you know somebody who has a plane and can just, never mind getting me to Washington County on time? Do you know somebody who owns their own private jet and can just get me the fuck out of Dodge? And why would a person do that? Was Mike Mitchell this guy on the roof? Well, if we look at him and we consider the guy that we saw jump down off that roof, yeah, no. No offense, Mike Mitchell, who has a name, but me neither, dude. Me neither. I mean, I'm not jumping down. I've been to that campus. I've been to that building. I ain't jumping off that thing. You're gonna break your leg, dude. That was a younger person jumped off of there. So, do I think Mike Mitchell took that shot? No. Not with Tyler Robinson's Mauser or one like it, and not from the top of the Law C Center. This is why this is weird, this next part. In any event, let's watch a little bit more of Candace while I try and find a decent clip here, because I want to show you this without, this next part without, oh, where did I go? Here I am. Let me show you this first. And get rid of this, stop screen, and share screen. It is still freaking hot here. I tried turning the central air from the central air and from the window unit, and it's still not cooling down. Who with OUR? You talking Huggy Bear? You talking about Tim? If somebody can find out if Mike Mitchell worked with OUR, that would be huge. That'd be huge. Also, if somebody can verify any of these claims by Candace Owens that of things like that the people on the airplane that took off that day from Provo were wearing OUR gear. I mean, she just regurgitates some wild stuff sometimes, and I'm worried about that. So if anybody can go and find the actual information on that, that would be lovely. So far, I haven't managed to. I've tried to get some help on this, but everybody's really busy right now. So I wanted to show you this. If you put in Michael Mitchell, Detective Michael Mitchell, Washington, if you Google that and Tim Ballard, you're not going to find anything, frankly. So that's when I started looking into it, I'm like, man, do I want this to be true? Why would I want this to be true? And so I'm like, maybe I'm got down a wild goose chase, and probably I did. There is one thing that did show up, though, when I punched in my curiosity. Does Mike Mitchell know Phil Lyman? And I'm going to show you the weirdest thing that I discovered so far. What does it mean? Just hear me out, Phil Lyman, when you see it. Probably nothing. It probably means nothing. This is the House Journal of the 64th Legislature of the State of Utah, General Session, first day, morning session in 2020. Mossad, no. Oh, sorry. Don't say Mossad. Who said Mossad? Shut up. All right. Now, this is a PDF document from the morning session from January 19, 2021. The House was called by order by Rob Bishop, former U.S. Representative and former Speaker of the House of Representatives. If you don't know, like most state legislatures, they do a lot of pomp and ceremony to get things kicked off. These legislators don't have much to do. They get marching orders from the Mormon Church. They implement those. The rest of the time, showmanship, government, which is why this is interesting. So there's a lot of, hey, we haven't heard from this guy in a while. Hey, we haven't seen this guy in a while. Let's give them a photo op. Let's give them an honorary title. Let's give them some responsibility at the big show at the Capitol building up there by This Is the Place monument. It's going to be great fun. We're going to show off we are American. All right. Now I want you to see something here. We can go and punch in, if we use our magic finder here, Mike Mitchell, and say, why did Google give us this? Because on page 21 of said journal, it shows that the sergeant at arms is Mike Mitchell. Now, best of my knowledge, sergeant at arms is basically a volunteer position. I don't know. I don't think they even get paid. But there's just, it's a cop who's there supposedly in case something goes down, right? But they rotate out different people as far as I know. Now, granted, I was on an airplane when I found this and looked it up, and I have not had a chance to verify how often was a Mike Mitchell the sergeant at arms in 2021 or at any other time. I'm sure if I had more time on my hands, I could figure it out. Maybe some of you could figure it out. But okay. And then you've got an assistant sergeant at arms. Whoa, everything's going really great here. You've got security. I'm sure all of these names are interesting. And if we were to look them all up, maybe we could even find somebody who was part of Operation Underground Railroad, somebody who has more associations to Phil Lyman or to Tim Ballard or something else, maybe even to Charlie Kirk himself. So there's something interesting here potentially. But in any event, what's the likelihood that there are two cops named Mike Mitchell in Utah in 2021? I'm going to go with it's possible, but from what I've seen so far, not likely. So it seems to me very plausible, at the least, that the Mike Mitchell that we are seeing here, the sergeant at arms in the Utah State Capitol in 2021, that this Mike Mitchell is our Mike Mitchell, the otherwise unnameable, which is interesting because we're not really even looking so much for Mike Mitchell as we are looking for his association with Phil Lyman. There's Phil Lyman, 73rd District, counties of Beaver, Garfield, Kane, Paiute, San Juan, Sevier, and Wayne. In other words, he's the southern central Utah guy. Is Phil Lyman, who is not yet running for governor. At least I don't think so in 2021. Phil Lyman is part of the Committee for Government Operations, YON. Phil Lyman, who's on Natural Resources, Agriculture, and Environment, YON. Phil Lyman. Oh, wait, that's it. So that's what, as many times as Phil Lyman shows up. Put in, now, you cut that back to just Lyman, and you have 33 references, because this is where you're going to get all the things that Phil Lyman voted for. Concurrent resolution recognizing the public service of Representative Luana Lou Shurtleff, who voted, 73 yeas, 0 nays, unanimously, including Lyman. So not controversial, but not necessarily interesting either. HJR Joint Resolution 3 passed on the following roll call: 72 yeas, nays 0, absent or not voting 3. Lyman. Voting in the negative was Representative Lyman, so he voted against a bill, Department of Human Services Budgetary Procedures Amendments, voted against that. Water Conservancy District Amendments, Representative Lyman commented, then voted apparently for it, along with everybody else, unanimous. Not that interesting. Veterans and Military Affairs Commission amendments, pretty normal, weirdly almost unanimous day of voting on Capitol Hill. Driver education amendments and so forth. Wildlife amendments, property redemption amendments, and then medical examiner amendments. Now, this is where things are starting to get a little bit interesting. HB 22, I thought was interesting because I do a lot of true crime in Utah I have done a lot of true crime in Utah. And when it says medical examiner amendments, that piques my interest because Utah has a bit of a history with its medical examiners. Namely, they kind of suck, generally speaking. Representative Nelson was read the third time by short title and placed on its final passage. Representatives Eliason and Waldrop commented, "Note this name, Representative Nelson." Okay, let's keep going. Oh, I think that's all. Okay. When we say Representative Nelson, let's see if I can pull this up. House Bill 22, Utah State Legislature, 2021. There we go. Let me share this with you. I'm going to take this down. Stop sharing that. Let's start sharing this. House Bill 22. This is that medical examiner's amendments bill, and you're going to notice that it's proposed by Representative Merrill F. Nelson. This part, I'm just going to admit to you, I'm just going to disclose to you, okay? And it may mean nothing. This is a fascinating tangent. As far as I know, nothing about nothing, okay? But interesting. Medical examiner amendments, chief sponsor is Merrill F. Nelson. And the general description. This bill amends the Utah Medical Examiner Act, requires the chief medical examiner to investigate deaths resulting directly from actions of a law enforcement officer, prohibits providing false information to the chief medical examiner, establishing a criminal penalty, and makes technical changes. I haven't gotten deep into this, but it does sound interesting, especially considering how much work I have done in the Ted Bundy story, where the medical examiner history in Utah is just a mess. And so, in any event, in 2021, they passed this bill that totally changed everything with the way that the medical examiner basically handles homicides or killings involving police officers. Just super, super important to deal delicately with in Utah, where at one point they shot a 13-year-old autistic boy 7 times for running away from the officer. Anyway, there was more to that story than that. Do your own research. The medical examiner shall assume custody of a deceased body if it appears that death was by violence, gunshot, suicide, or accident, was sudden death while in apparent good health, occurred unattended, except that an autopsy may only be performed in accordance with the provisions of subsection 2649, occurred under suspicious or unusual circumstances, resulted from poisoning or overdose of drugs, resulted from a disease that may constitute a threat to the public health, resulted from disease, injury, toxic effect, or unusual exertion incurred within the scope of the decedent's employment, was due to sudden infant death syndrome, occurred while the decedent was in prison, jail, police custody, the state hospital, or in a detention or medical facility operated for the treatment of persons with a mental illness, persons who are emotionally disturbed, or delinquent persons, resulted directly from the actions of a law enforcement officer as defined in section 5313-103. It just so happens that this was interesting. Maybe somebody else has time to go over this and why Phil Lyman voted for it, or anybody was interested in it, especially when Merrill F. Nelson. The man's name, he's disappeared his profile because he's no longer in office, maybe. The man's name is Merrill F. Nelson. Handsome devil here. Let's see if we can bring him up in a new tab. Nope. Anyways, that's him. Merrill F. Nelson. Everybody see that all right? Why is Merrill F. Nelson interesting? Merrill F. Nelson, in addition to being the Eastern Utah representative in the state legislature, is an attorney for a law firm called Curtin, McConkie and Associates. In fact, you may have heard of this attorney from Curtin, McConkie and Associates. You may have heard of this law firm, which is the law firm that is the general counsel for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It also, at one point, was apparently the law firm for Operation Underground Railroad. They have other clients, so maybe that means nothing. People I know connected to OUR have said otherwise and said that it definitely raised a few eyebrows. The church's lawyers represent Tim Ballard. In fact, the guy Jesse Stay that I interviewed as one of my early interviews on the Tim Ballard story told me that he basically went to OUR because people in the Quorum of the 12 Apostles recommended that he go and meet with Tim Ballard, in part because the church was interested in the well-being of his project because they thought it was morally right, OUR, and also because the church's legal firm, the church's general counsel firm, is also the firm for this entity, for this other organization, and they need help, technical help, like electronics. In any event, so whatever. This guy Merrill, you may have heard of him because he was an attorney. He's a church attorney. Also, He is apparently, allegedly. Do you remember there was a case that came to court a couple of years ago where a bishop in Arizona had received the confession or the interview, the worthiness interview of a man in his congregation who admitted to harming his own children, and that it was an ongoing thing? You remember hearing about this? That the bishop, trying to conform with the church's handbook standards, had been confronted with this and decided to follow the church's handbook and ask the man and his spouse if he could get law enforcement involved and put him on the path towards something like getting the children into a safer place in life, getting him, brought to justice and so forth. But according to Arizona law, the man could not do anything. And there is a Maxfield OUR connection. I would love to know about it. Huggy gets good info. Huggy, send me that. Because that I am interested in. I've been trying to find somebody who has good info on that. It would make sense. And if it is, then that is definitely suspicious. That's as close as we get to this wild, crazy Candace Owens airplane story actually becoming something real. If Tim Ballard was there and Maxfield is connected to OUR and owns a plane, that suddenly I would immediately think those two passengers on that plane are Tim Ballard and somebody else. Maybe somebody who has firearms experience, maybe somebody who knows how to use an air rifle. I'm going to float this again because it doesn't get taken seriously enough in any event. So this guy, that guy in Arizona who both he and his wife did not consent to the bishop tattling on them. He winds up going to the church's hotline. You may have heard of this. The Mormon Church maintained an abuse hotline that you could call for help to get help for somebody in your flock who had been abused. And as it was the case, apparently ongoing with this man's children. And that when he called the hotline, he got a hold of an attorney there, and very disturbing realization, as some people would get, that this was not a hotline that would call law enforcement, is not a hotline to a therapist resource network. It is to the church's lawyers at Curtin McConkie and Associates. And apparently, as I understand it, as I have read, I think I feel safe in saying that we can actually say this, that the attorney who called him and told him, because in Arizona law, confession, the confessional is sealed, you're good. You don't need to tell anybody what this man told you, and you don't need to intervene in any way, apparently. That guy was Merrill F. Nelson. So what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? I have no idea. But it's weird. It's weird that this man is in the room passing a bill about medical examiner amendments in the room where Phil Lyman was also there to vote, apparently. And the Speaker of the House at that time was, what's his name? Wilson. Rob Wilson? No. Wilson. Anyways, the guy who ends up basically, as I understand it, replacing Tim Ballard in running for Mitt Romney's seat after Tim Ballard was exposed, allegedly, for abusing women that worked for him. All in the same room where, once again, hate to bring it up, but the sergeant at arms, mostly, as far as I understand it, an entirely ceremonial title, somebody who the Speaker of the House basically invites somebody to be sergeant at arms that day. And it's interesting that it happens to be Wilson and this guy, Mike Mitchell. Again, how close is Mike Mitchell to Phil Lyman? Because if Mike Mitchell is close to Phil Lyman, then he's close to that. He's close to Tim Ballard. And if he did work in a kind of net nanny to catch a predators type of job in Salt Lake County, he may be associated with the people that Tim Ballard brought on board, to help him start Operation Underground Railroad, including the guy from Washington State, who was basically fired, as I understand, from Washington State troopers after they found out that he spent all of his time in Utah getting paid Operation Underground Railroad donor money and collecting a salary there, while he was supposed to also be working in Washington, and it caused a huge kerfuffle in the state of Washington. Not talking about Washington City. Finally, we're talking about the state of Washington. At that same time, was Mike Mitchell running a net nanny sting operation based out of Washington County? And was he the scoutmaster to Tyler Robinson at that time? Does he feel negatively towards Tyler Robinson, given that allegedly Tyler Robinson had a trans girlfriend? Allegedly, Tyler Robinson is photographed wearing T-shirts making fun of the MAGA government and of Donald Trump. Does he have negative feelings toward Tyler Robinson? Does he have any reason to want to frame Tyler Robinson? Does he have any reason to dislike or be angry with Charlie Kirk? Even if he doesn't, how close is he to Tim Ballard? Which leads me to another question. If he retired on or about January 11th, 2024, did he go with Tim Ballard to Israel? How close is Mike Mitchell to Tim Ballard? Do they both just happen to work in anti-trafficking? Do they both just happen to work in anti-trafficking and or have an association with this Derek Maxfield of Unique, which their foundation now has a different name and is at the same building and has a plane that took off from Provo to go to Page, Arizona, supposedly, according to Derek Maxfield himself, supposedly to get down to Page, Arizona, just a few minutes after the shooting of Charlie Kirk. I don't know, but it brings up a lot of questions that if Candace Owens were here, she'd say, well, there you go, there's the Jews. That doesn't mean it has anything to do with the Jews. Technically, Bibi Netanyahu is a Jew. Bibi Netanyahu does dark, insidious things.
His job, Detective Mike Mitchell, was to create messages online.
She read it in the Deseret News. That's her weird source. That's the actual. She's actually reading from the same article I just read to you. Everyone can Google.
Took place on that day, and we have a lot of leads that are coming in. And I want to say that I want to refocus your attention and now open this up internationally because I have a hunch human sex trafficking.
Sorry.
We are definitively getting closer to what took place on that day. And we have a lot of leads that are coming in. And I want to say that I want to refocus your attention and now open this up internationally because I have a hunch on who that goth kid is. Okay.
I have to say, I wasn't expecting for her to be so good at finding and pointing out who the potential actor is who could have made a patsy out of Tyler Robinson by dressing up like him, because Tim Ballard couldn't have dressed up at nearly as convincingly as Tyler Robinson and gotten away with it. I just don't buy it. His body is stocky, let's say. This guy Mike Mitchell, no way. You couldn't. That couldn't be either of them on that roof, which it doesn't have to be. I'm increasingly convinced. Let me see if I can actually find the video file. Well, let me show you this here. I just recently found this one. This is footage that somebody at UVU or somebody close enough to UVU built a convincing model of UVU's campus and the position where Tyler Robinson is alleged to have been when the shooting happened. So allegedly, this is where Tyler Robinson was on top of the Lossy Center, and this is the path of a quote-unquote projectile. So as you can tell, this is meant to show that it is possible, plausible even, to believe that Tyler Robinson could have fired a round from that position on that roof. The reason why I just don't feel convinced, however, is that if you look at other footage from the actual day, you can see there is one camera that appears, and maybe this isn't real. I've got to find out. I got to confirm this independently, but I know I was watching it today and I was trying to find the video. I was going through a lot of ballistics information, trying to put together this thing. Why is it that there are bullet fragments in Charlie Kirk's body? Everything I'm seeing about a 30-06 in this condition, you don't find fragments of a bullet in Charlie Kirk. It's going to be blunt with you on this situation. You find fragments of Charlie Kirk. You find the bullet intact. And the fact that the bullet they pulled fragments that could not be confirmed to have been from Tyler's Mauser leads me to think this isn't to re-examine this question. If there were people who heard multiple shots that day inside that grassy area, I'm trying hard not to say grassy knoll. If you know, you know. Could some of them maybe have heard an air rifle pellet that might not have been picked up by cell phone cameras on the other side of that same grassy knoll? If you know, you know. There are two kinds of long guns that are used for sniping and for hunting and for sport. That main kinds. There are multiple kinds, but there are two that I'm going to focus on here. One is a firearm and one is not. Air rifles, if you've ever heard of a high-power air rifle, high-power air rifles have become incredibly accurate, very, very fast. They can fire a round, or not fire, but a launch, I guess, send a round. Very, very fast. And the round itself has no gunpowder connected with it. That's why it's not technically a firearm. It is entirely using air pressure, and they're remarkably useful, especially for hunting big game, particularly because even though they are loud when you're right next to it, depending on which ones you get, how powerful they are, whichever one you use, they're not as loud as you get away from the actual path of the projectile and as you get away from the actual weapon itself. It's not obvious where it's coming from. Now, one of the things I am going to bring up some footage, and I'm hoping that you won't see anything disagreeable. If you are sensitive, I would maybe be careful about this. Maybe rejoin us at another time. If you can't handle anything gruesome, I'm not going to play the video. I'm just going to scrub through it a little bit. But this is actual footage of the Charlie Kirk shooting. So if you can't handle it, join us at another time, would you? I am going to take the sound off. Trust me, from all these different angles, what's important is from all these different angles, the recording only includes one shot. You have all this footage of Charlie, and then you've got footage allegedly of Tyler Robinson or somebody on top of the Lossy Center running away. Does seem like somebody dressed very similar to images, alarmingly similar to images of Tyler Robinson on his own Facebook page. It's almost like the person running across is trying hard to dress like Tyler Robinson. Now, maybe that's because it is Tyler Robinson. I don't know. But it is interesting. I'm trying to see if I found, and then of course, this is another thing. I don't know that this has ever been mentioned before. I am going to play a little bit of this. Watch a little bit of this announcement. First of all, the fact that the President of the United States would make a comment on an ongoing investigation on a shooting as fast as Donald Trump did, it's weird. Okay, I'm not saying that he's involved. I'm not saying anything untoward. I'm just saying this, if you're going to say something, it should just be our heart goes out to the victims. We hope to bring a swift resolution to this, get some persons of interest, get some suspects in, and get justice for these victims. God bless you. You know, the standard line. Instead, we got more of this "he died like a dog" thing, not about Charlie, but about whoever did this. And I was watching this footage. I know at least one person who's going to say, "Oh yeah, Joe, go down this rabbit hole." Whenever I see something that's weird that involves any big celebrity, I look at their teeth. Look at his teeth. That's all I'm saying. Look at his teeth.
Here at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith, and we take comfort.
Sometimes some AI models, if they have to sync up mouth movement, basically make a mask of the mouth opening and closing to make it look a little more realistic, and then put an image of the teeth almost with a gap in between them, just kind of hiding in the hole of that mask, so that it's just revealing that those teeth in various positions of open. And I'm not saying that this is AI generated. I'm saying that it looks AI generated.
Comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the two young.
If you wanted Donald Trump to not go off on a tangent, you might put him on a teleprompter. The chances that he'll go off on a tangent anyways, as we've seen, very probable. If you want to make sure Donald Trump's not going to go off on a tangent, even if you put him on teleprompter, you have an AI clone of him just say what the staff have written to be said. It looks, this looks like a statement that was prepared and generated, almost as if it was in a hopper ready to go. Almost as if, I'm not saying that's the case. This is a little bit conspiracy theory-ish. I'm just saying it's it's a little too sudden to have suddenly decided, let's put out a statement from the president. Let's not tell him about it. Let's just AI generate an alternate version of it so that we don't have to worry about him saying something else. But let's get it out right now. You would almost want to have it ready to go and in the hopper, ready to release. But that would depend on that you knew that that crime was going to happen ahead of time. Might be nothing, but weird. Okay. Then you have all these people saying, talking about what it was like to be there, and more than one of them happened to say, "Oh yeah, thanks, Iowa Carp. We really needed a lot of that. I'm not going to ban you. I am putting you in timeout." Anyway, this guy here, is this Phil Lyman's nephew / cousin? I don't know, but I believe that that's who it was before thinking that was Mike Mitchell or Tim Ballard at least. But it's interesting. Yep. Thank you. I don't try to censor. Sometimes when people make comments that could get the channel into trouble, I have to delete the comments. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, so that's that's somebody who's running off supposedly with that Mauser and a screwdriver and a towel that have Tyler Robinson's DNA on them, which is a weird combination. I can get needing a screwdriver to assemble and disassemble the scope off of the weapon. I'd have to see what actual scope it was. I don't know how many of those you're going to need a screwdriver to put it on, put it off, to put it on, take it off. Number one. Number two, I don't know why you would take that screwdriver with you to the place where you're going to use it rather than just assembling it ahead of time and having it and then leaving it somewhere else. Unless, of course, the screwdriver that has Tyler Robinson's DNA on it just happens to be at his house or his apartment, and they grab that. And then what else do you have that has his DNA on it? We've got his towel in the bathroom. Who gave them access to that? Or did Tyler Robinson really think, I'm just going to grab the screwdriver in case I have to modify the sighting or whatever? I don't know why you would need that. Any $2,000 scope that I have seen, as he complains about how to Luna about how expensive the scope was. My understanding with every optical I have seen, you can adjust and dial it with your fingers. You don't need a screwdriver. Now, maybe to put it on the rack, you need a screwdriver. Sure, sometimes. Maybe every time. I don't know. I'm not an expert. But to adjust it, maybe to adjust like the back focus or something. I mean, do they have back focus on it? I know on a camera you would have back focus. And for something like that, maybe. I don't know. It feels a little bit like grab anything, throw it in this bag. We're going to go out there. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Anyway, so, and then if it were me, I would estimate that the rifle is already in the that field across the street. That is, interestingly enough, outside of where the outside of any angle where cameras would catch somebody. All this time, Tyler Robinson supposedly is running around UVU campus, not avoiding cameras. But then the place where he happens to stash the rifle is one of the few places near campus where no camera can see him do it. Or it was there the whole time. In any event, try and find. Apparently, I didn't capture this part itself. So maybe we'll leave this for another time. So These are the interesting questions. How can we connect, if we can connect, Mike Mitchell to either Derek Maxfield, Tim Ballard, OUR, Phil Lyman, or this nephew slash cousin of Phil Lyman's? Is it significant? If there is a connection there, I would say the fact that Mike, this is why it's important to me. The fact that all the footage of Tyler Robinson turning himself in is just gone. And the only witness that we have to what Tyler Robinson did when he was arrested and what he negotiated when he arrested is the sheriff and some deputy of the sheriff's, this former deputy of the sheriff, and Tyler Robinson's parents. And that these are the people who are being brought in to testify that they know that Tyler Robinson was in Orem that day previous and that he did pull the trigger because he hated Charlie Kirk. Makes it feel like you don't have any solid evidence at all. You have only circumstantial evidence from people who are not witnesses to the crime, unless somebody in that room was in Orem when supposedly that trigger was pulled. I'm not saying that there's no way to make a case purely from hearsay. I'm not saying there's no way to make a case purely from somebody saying, Tyler Robinson confessed to me. It's weird when law enforcement just deletes any plausible footage of it. One. Two, especially when the person that you're talking about has a habit of disappearing from the media, allegedly because he was an undercover cop, at the same time that Tim Ballard was running undercover sting operations with Operation Underground Railroad, and all these people happen to have been in a 5-minute to 15-minute vicinity or direction, a 5 to 15-minute, what are we saying? Perimeter, diameter, radius. A radius, that's the word I'm looking for. It's really late here. Oh my gosh, it's 2 a.m. here. A 15-minute radius of Utah Valley University that day. And that's without even going into any of the weird things I spent the last 2 days on looking into Tyler Robinson's personal security detail and an old nemesis of atheists everywhere. We have to talk about that at some other point in time. This Tim Ballard connection, I wanted to dismiss it out of hand because it just feels just to challenge my own bias, just to think critically, which is what we're engaged in here. This is what true crime should be, in my opinion. Challenge your own bias. So it'll be interesting. Sorry, I haven't been looking at everything. Does he have free-stroke teeth? Maybe that's what I'm noticing. Could be. Yes, people did hear multiple shots on that day. Oh, so I couldn't find the footage. Maybe I'll bring it up for the next broadcast. We'll do this again on Friday. Basically, thank you for bringing me back on this, Jesse. There is a camera angle that appears to have caught. Oh, first of all, 2 things. One is the Rode microphone that was clipped to his shirt and supposedly had a lithium-ion battery in it. Well, could have had an explosive in it. This is the prevailing theory out there. I feel confident that we can put that one to bed. I looked at several. Instances of people causing these lithium-ion batteries to explode. You could lace it with something like C4 or something and cause it to explode remotely, but you couldn't do that and make it also function as a microphone. that I can think of or see. You could load it up with gunpowder and then ignite it remotely, but you would have gotten an explosion. Not just accelerant sending shrapnel in one direction. You would get an incendiary explosion, gunpowder. Same thing with C4. You would get quite a blast even from a little amount of it. So I'm not really sure what people are suggesting that somebody did to cause his microphone to explode and cause his injury, unless it is the lithium-ion battery. These batteries, it's a 3.2, if I'm not mistaken, 3.2 volt battery, lithium-ion battery inside those Rode Go microphones that are connected, that he had connected on his shirt with a magnet. And you look at the people pointed out there's some weird logo on the magnet. That logo I know very well, being a video and sound guy for 30 years, basically. That's the Rode microphone logo, the O with the slash through it. And I said, yeah, that's a Rode mic. They're good mic. Rode microphones are good microphones. Used them for many years. In fact, I've used them most of my career, frankly. Rode mics are good mics. This one, though, was on the opposite side of Charlie Kirk's wound. And I tried looking at it from multiple different angles. First of all, there was no incendiary plume. And that tells me that's not a lithium-ion battery going off. To cause a lithium-ion battery to go off, you basically just have to puncture it. If you puncture it, eventually it swells up and then poof. If it goes at all, it will send like a quick volcanic eruption of material, and it will catch fire. That's not at all what we saw that day. I'm not convinced in any way that this exploding microphone thing is a plausible explanation. I do not, however, think that this Mauser is an explanation either. I resort back again to that. If you have fragments inside Charlie Kirk's body, the only thing I can think of is that is an air pellet that is designed for like hunting purposes to disintegrate in some way, to splinter in some way, to spread in some way upon impact, while causing as little loud disturbance to the target as possible. This is the reason why people, even in movies, you'll hear people talk about snipers as using a high power air rifle. But I was going through footage of what a pellet looks like as it passes through ballistic, and different capacities. Different calibers of these pellets and different designs of the pellets, trying to find a compelling comparison. What caliber would you be looking at? What kind would you be looking at? Apparently, the material that was pulled from Charlie Kirk's body was lead, or some composite with lead, and that's why it's being run up against these bullets that were found with Tyler Robinson's Mauser. If that is the case, it very plausibly could be it could be an air pellet that would cause a wound like the one that we saw, a lot sooner and a lot more plausibly than a round shot from the 30-06. So I don't know. We'll have to come back to it. But this footage and this is where we'll leave it tonight because I am exhausted. When I looked at this footage, and the creator on the podcast pointed out this in his camera footage that you can see a projectile, and that projectile goes past Charlie Kirk's head and continues onward. And it seemed to me just clear as day that it was on almost an upward trajectory in relation to his head. And that the wound didn't emerge on his throat until that projectile was well past his head, moving in a slightly different direction. And it made me, and that's when these accounts that I have heard and that you hear from people who were there saying, I swear I heard more than one shot. I can't say for sure yet, but now I'm down at the rabbit hole I'm currently down is, how plausible is it that whoever killed Charlie Kirk that day pulled the trigger once and missed, and then pulled the trigger again, and could do it even though a sound emerged from maybe even the Law C Center at that time, which could mean, and again, I'd have to look at the ballistics. I still haven't had time to test any of this. This is the emerging theory in my head that is probably just a wild goose chase. What if somebody fired a blank from the Law C Center while somebody from nearby at a more accessible angle where you might have a projectile coming up the other direction, basically from Charlie Kirk, from where Charlie Kirk was wounded, slightly different direction. That they were firing with a weapon you wouldn't have heard at that distance from that area unless you were either standing right next to the emitter when it fires, right next to the barrel when it fires, or you were somewhere near the path of that pellet moving through the air. This is the reason why air pellet rifles are preferred by some sports shooters, big game hunters and so forth, or even small game. So that's where I am. In addition to this new question, how many lines can we draw between Mike Mitchell? Because and Phil Lyman and or Tim Ballard and or OUR and or Turning Point USA and or Charlie Kirk and or Israel and or Mossad. Look, I was one who poo-pooed the whole thing until I watched that Candace Owens interview, which I try not to do because, again, I think Candace Owens is wrong most of the time. It's 2:21 in the morning in Charlotte. Look again at 2:21 in the afternoon because apparently Candace Owens is right twice a day because she's a stopwatch. The rest of the time, she's wrong, I think. But that doesn't mean she gets everything wrong. You have to get up pretty early in the morning, go out of your way to get everything wrong. And this Mike Mitchell thing and this Tim Ballard thing are panning out. Again, at no point in this broadcast did I suggest anybody was guilty or that they should be considered guilty before a jury has had a chance to decide otherwise. All I'm saying is, let's give Tyler Robinson the same opportunity, the same chance here, and let's admit that we don't have all the information yet. And it's interesting that some of this information apparently has something to do with Tim Ballard. Just saying. Do I know about Rick Cutler's connection to OUR? Rick Cutler. I don't. If I do, it's one of a mess of names jumbled up in my brain. That's very plausible, Jesse. Although I will say this, I don't think it's so much that Tyler Robinson doesn't have a chance with this defense attorney. I do hear you on the defense attorney. They are doing some things that make me go, well, okay, good for them. I wish they were doing more. But I don't know that he ever had I don't know that Tyler Robinson has a chance no matter what. And that's what really bothers me on this case is that they want somebody to take a bullet for Charlie so badly that they'll shoot an innocent man for it. And the more I look into this, the more it looks like Tyler Robinson was the last person to know that he was guilty of a crime. And so I don't know. Tony Graff, I haven't looked into him other than some of his more recent cases. But I wasn't impressed with this civil contempt finding on Friday, but I did find it interesting that he would at least go so far as to grant that there was misconduct on the part of Christopher Ballard. Again, can anybody confirm for me whether or not Christopher Ballard has any family association with Tim Ballard? Because now that would be fascinating. But as far as I have seen so far, it's just a coincidence. How many unrelated Ballards can you have? Anyway, so I better run, you guys. I've been wanting to get some of this information out to you. I definitely want to do more stuff, though. I'm telling you, there's cheese down this tunnel, I think, with this air pellet thing. So, in any event, I'll plan to go live again on Friday. I will be in Virginia again, finally working on some of the finishing touches on the off-grid house. And we're finally getting back into the saddle, getting back to speed of things. Love your faces, flash bright. Sorry to wake you up so early in the morning or late at night, whatever time it is for you. And I am going to get some sleep. Flash bright, my friends.